kick it off. My name is Kelly with aSweatLife. We have Chef Alia with us on today's workshop. We love Alia and we can't wait to spend the next hour with you as we pamper ourselves a bit with some DIY skincare treatments and treats. Like we said, we sent a recipe out and it's in the chat box if you didn't receive it, but Alia is going to go over some of those recipes that she's already provided us. If you have some of the ingredients, it's kind of meant to, Alia is going to walk through everything. If you have the ingredients, great, you can actively join along through the process or just take notes for when you want to do it on your own. Either option. I'm in a kitchen, so I'm going to actively participate and try on some new things. But before I pass it on to Alia, as with all of our events, including our digital ones, we always come together to try something new and to meet new people. And since we are now in this digital world, I would like everyone to simply just say hello using the chat box. Say your name and what you enjoy doing for self-care. Cool? Let's do it. Ooh, painting.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Sheet masks. Being by myself, that's a good one too. I need that too. Meditation. I want to get more into meditation.
I say that all the time.
Oh,
every week.
No, moisturizing before bed. Very important now.
Yeah.
Journaling is a good one.
Awesome. Thank you guys for saying hello. And I'm going to pass it on to Alia to do a little pampering sesh. Take it away.
Thanks, Kelly. So my name is Chef Alia Dalal. I know I met a bunch of you in the past. I've been doing events with Kelly and Gina, Marie, the whole crew for a couple of years now. So we've done like cooking classes, smoothie things, some breakfast and learns, lunch and learns. So they asked me if I would be interested in kind of a kitchen beauty class. And as you can see, I've pulled out like so many things from my pantry. So I'm going to take you through a couple of the recipes that I have in that PDF. And if you're just joining now, if you scroll all the way up to the top, they're pinned there if you don't have them. But I wanted to showcase very like spa-like activities from food and beverage, obviously because I'm a chef, but also like skin and different beauty treatments that you can use if you have like ingredients and you don't really want to be doing a lot of shopping right now. So the flow of this event is that I'm going to start off with the chickpea recipe. That's like our snack for the day. So if you're joining along with that one, you want to get out your can or your couple cans of chickpeas. Doing that one first because it takes the longest. So hopefully by the end of the call, they'll be done. And then we'll go through sort of the beverages and treatments as we go. And I do have, if you can tell, I have this very fancy camera setup. It's just my iPhone on a stand, but I do have the chat opened as well. So I'll kind of periodically glance over here. If you guys have questions, maybe I'll do a little like question check before we move on to the next category. And then Kelly can also hop on the mic and read me some questions too, because I really, just like my in-person cooking classes, I want this to be interactive. And at the end, if you have questions, like if you've just had a lot of cooking questions come up that have nothing to do with what we're talking about, save those for the end. But I'm happy to hang on the call for a little while too, because I know people are cooking a lot more at home now. So if that sounds good to everyone, we will start off with that chickpea recipe. And then I want to tell you guys a little bit more about my background too and why this is something that I'm interested in. So the crispy chickpea snack, I thought this would be a fun spa-like snack because it's a little bit lighter, it's high protein, but it's kind of crunchy. I don't know, when I think like spa night at home, I'm like, I want popcorn, I want crackers, like I want a big bowl of something salty and crunchy. So that's what we're gonna be making, even though a lot of spa food is like, you know, cucumber soup, and it just doesn't seem as fun or indulgent. So I'm starting off, I just halved the recipes just to make it cook a little bit more quickly, but I'm taking 1 can of chickpeas. The recipe is just for 2, and I'm going to drain them. Chickpeas have a bunch of liquid in the can, so you can see this liquid. Let's see if I can tilt that. Today we're just going to throw it out, but you can actually save it in your refrigerator and use it in place of egg whites. So if you want to do like a baking recipe and you don't have egg whites, or if you're vegan and you don't use eggs, but you want to make like meringue or something, you can actually whip up this liquid like with a hand mixer, and it gets really foamy and frothy, just like egg whites. So that's actually kind of cool. You'd want to make sure your chickpeas don't have a ton of salt or any other seasonings in them if you're going to use them for baking. But feel free to hang on to that liquid. I'm just going to give these a little bit of a rinse because I want that excess starch off of them. When we're trying to get things crispy in the oven, whether it's like a grain or beans or really anything, you want any of that excess starchy liquid off. This tip actually works for potatoes too. If you want to get really crispy oven fries, rinse your potatoes once you've sliced them, then pat them dry. They'll be like twice as crispy. So I'm just going to rinse these under water. And then I'm going to take a sheet tray. And so I'm going to be popping a little bit in and out of the frame, but I just wanted to set things up so you guys could see. So I have like a big cookie sheet and then a piece of parchment on top. The parchment's optional. It just makes it a little bit easier to clean up and make sure nothing really sticks to that tray. So I'm going to make sure that excess liquid is off my chickpeas, and we're going to put them on the tray. And spread them out. So you can get 2 cans of chickpeas on one of these trays easily. The one thing you don't want is when they go in the oven, everything to be all jammed up next to each other, because the moisture will evaporate and they'll actually steam each other rather than roasting. So whether it's veggies or chickpeas, spread it out. I'm going to drizzle a little bit of grapeseed oil. The reason I'm not using olive oil is that olive oil really just shouldn't be heated too high. And my oven is turned up to 400 degrees. So grapeseed oil, just any other kind of light oil, is a little bit better of a choice than olive for this. I'm adding a little bit of salt. And then in your recipe, I gave you a couple seasoning options. So I want to show you one spice or one ingredient that I use all the time. And it's called granulated garlic. So I'm going to try to give you guys a good view of this. So it's basically like garlic powder, but it's like grittier, like sand. Garlic powder is typically made from the skins of garlic, and it's just kind of a flavorless paper powder. It burns really easily too. So granulated garlic is just so much more potent. So honestly, you could just do salt and granulated garlic on these and they would be delicious. I decided to add one more spice from my suggested spices, and it's a spice blend called Zatar. So some of you guys might be familiar with Zatar. It's a Middle Eastern spice blend. I'll show you what this one looks like too. You guys can see. I feel like a beauty blogger when I do that. Zatar. So Zatar, if I make it at home, I usually do equal parts thyme, oregano, sesame seeds, and then sumac. So sumac is a sour berry. If you don't have sumac, you could use lemon zest, or you can buy this at like most grocery stores now. So I'm going to put a little sumac on there. This is awesome on chicken, on potatoes. You know, just kind of has that herby spice blend flavor, but then a little bit of zip from that sumac, which is nice and sour. So I'm tossing these together to get this nice and even, spreading them out like I mentioned. And then I'm just going to rinse off my hands, and I'm going to put these in the oven at 400 degrees for at least 45 minutes. So a lot of recipes I've seen online for crispy chickpeas, the temperature isn't hot enough, or the time. It's like roast them for 30 minutes. They're not going to be crispy the way you want them to. After 30 minutes, it's going to take closer 45 minutes to 60 minutes. So I'm going to pop these in the oven, and then we'll see if there's any questions about this. Okay, ooh, got a couple people who like Zatar. Question, do you need to rinse the chickpeas? You could probably get away with not doing it. I don't know if I answered that question already. It's just gonna get rid of that excess starch. It's gonna make them a little bit crispier. And then sometimes I just don't like that sticky bean liquid. It's just gonna prevent them from getting sticky. So I would recommend it. Does avocado oil work? 100%. Avocado oil is structurally really similar to extra virgin olive oil. If you think about it, they're both really fatty fruits. They're high in monounsaturated fatty acids, but olive oil can be heated a decent amount higher than olive oil. So that would be wonderful too. Awesome. So those are, let me actually set a timer just so I don't get chatty and forget about them. Okay. So while those are roasting, I know I mentioned that I'm a chef and I've done some events with the aSweatLife in the past, but just so you guys know a little bit more about me and you know why I was interested in doing this event is that I've been a chef in the health and wellness space for about 10 years. So I actually did go to a culinary school that you learn both like nutrition and holistic health alongside traditional culinary. So there's very few programs like that. I think at the time there were 2 in the United States. I think maybe there's 1 now. But really like my interest in food has always been related to health and not necessarily always in that, oh, you know, just drink your green juice kind of way. You know, it's really the way that we take care of each other. You know, it can provide mental health benefits. I spent the beginning part of my career working with a lot of people who were going through cancer treatment, you know, autoimmune diseases, different things like that. And food can just be a really powerful way to, you know, take care of yourself or take care of someone else. And then after I graduated culinary school, I'd actually won a cooking prize in culinary school. So I won this like $10,000 prize. And I decided I wanted to use it to travel to India and study in an Ayurvedic spa. So my family background is Indian, and I had actually studied abroad in South India in college. And that was my first exposure to Ayurveda. And this was about maybe like 10 or 15 years ago. If I would talk about it with someone in the US, like no one knew what I was talking about. But I think probably, you can let me know in the chat, but probably a lot of you guys have heard of Ayurveda before. I know I've talked about it at aSweatLife events. I know there's some other partners in the space who deal with it. But basically it's like the holistic healthcare system of India, you could say. So really reliant on herbs, on massage, on foods, and the whole principle is really that your health is a connection between mind, body, and spirit. And it was just something that was really mind-blowing to me when I studied abroad in college. And so I said, hey, like, I want to learn more about this food and what it means, because I just couldn't really find anything about it in the United States. So I used that money, moved to India, and worked at a spa called Ananda in the Himalayas. I know we have at least one person on the call. I saw her, Laura, popped up, who has been to that spa. It's amazing. And just spent a couple months in the kitchen learning about like these different foods and how they can help people. And so I thought I'd bring some of that to you guys. So we'll definitely be approaching this more from just like I want to say like fun and entertainment and educational standpoint, not like that these are medical treatments, which I think everyone understands on the call, but just want to throw that disclaimer out there. You know, these are things that I do that I feel comfortable sharing with you, but, you know, always use your own judgment. Just because products are natural doesn't mean that they can't, you know, irritate your skin or that you can't have an allergy to them. So just, you know, be smart, and hopefully this will be something that kind of sparks your curiosity in this space as well. So a couple more questions. Let's see. Chickpeas. Yes. Oh, and cocktail recipes. Yes. Good point, Marie. So that aquafaba that we saved from the chickpeas, if you see like sour cocktail recipes, that's usually where you have an egg white shaken up like a pisco sour. You could use a little bit of aquafaba for that too. Just be careful not to use too much because it's bean juice basically. So your cocktail may eventually get a bean-like aroma, so just go easy on it. But next I want to go to the first recipe in the packet, which is the cold brew hibiscus tea. So we'll talk a little bit about spa beverages, and then we'll go into the second beverage too. So I know not everyone has everything in their kitchen, so I want to give you guys just some ideas and some substitutions too. So typically for like spa beverages, especially from like an Ayurvedic perspective, we're going to use a lot of like herbs and spices and plants. Unlike maybe American spas, there's really not going to be like carbonated beverages. So even things like sparkling waters, it's not that they're bad for you, but just often those bubbles can, you know, maybe like give people gas, or it's usually not something that you would find in an Ayurvedic spa, but actually like this one that I'm going to show you next would be awesome if you mixed it into sparkling water too. So the first one I wanted to show you is how to do like cold brew herb preparations. So this is one that has been in my fridge for about a day. And this is a cold brew hibiscus tea. So I used dried hibiscus flowers, which you can get at like Whole Foods or a health food store. Let me show you what these look like close up. So these are, you guys see that? It's like, they look kind of gnarly. They're like hot pink. I mean, literally those hibiscus flowers that you see, you know, in tropical environments. They're dried up and they make a hot pink tea. They're a pretty good source of iron, vitamin C, and I think for like herbalism perspectives, they're often used for like heart health. You can also get, let me grab it, just hibiscus tea in like a box. So the Tazo brand has one called Passion. You can easily just use like a boxed one too. So I'll just open one up and show you how we do this. So I take a mason jar and I have like 4 cups of water in there. So that's just, this is like a 32-ounce mason jar. And I'm going to take hibiscus flowers. So you either want half a cup of dried flowers, and we're doing this with hibiscus, but you can use this method for any dried herbs that you have. So if you have chamomile, if you have mint, ginger, you know, basil, really anything you can do the same method with. So I have my 4 cups of water. I'm going to take, we can either put these whole hibiscus flowers in there, or I can open up a couple of these tea bags and toss them in. And because we're doing cold brew, typically we want it to be a little bit stronger because we might dilute this with ice later, or it's just going to be a little bit slower of a process. So I'm going to put 3 tea bags in here, and you can see that color is already, I don't know if you can tell, but it's sort of starting to stain the top pink, but it is going to take a while. Let me move this back so you guys can see. Then I want to just add a little bit more flavor to this. So I'm going to take some fresh ginger, and I'm just going to cut off a piece. A couple of tips with working with ginger. We're going to strain out the ginger, so theoretically you could cut it with the peel. That's fine. I think we're all being just like a little bit more conscious about being sort of neat and clean, and also just not really wanting those little papery bits in there. So I'm going to show you how to peel this. So you have 2 choices. I think I see a lot of people online taking like a spoon, and you can just sort of scrape off the skin with a spoon. I actually find that just using a vegetable peeler is so much easier. So I'm just going to peel this off. The fresher your ginger is, the easier it is to peel. And if you can't be bothered with either of these methods, you can simply just cut, you know, however much you want to use. And then I just take my knife and I basically like slice down the side. You'll have a little bit more waste this way. But if, you know, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. Sometimes what I'll do actually is I'll use like this ginger that's peeled for like a stir fry or for cooking. And then these little knobbly bits that I've cut off, that's what I'll actually throw into the tea. You just want to make sure to strain it first. So I'm going to slice this. So ginger, I think a lot of people know, is good for immunity. It's also good for digestion. It's like herbal property is that it's a carminative, so it does help decrease gas in the digestive system. So it's certain culinary traditions, it's often paired with foods that like might promote that, but it's also just going to give us like a wonderful warming spicy flavor to the hibiscus tea. And if you guys don't know what hibiscus tastes like, it's kind of sour. So if you like kind of sour, citrusy, pomegranate juice, things like that, you'll really like hibiscus because it's pretty tart. It's not a little bit sweet, but pretty tart. So I kind of like it with the ginger. And then lastly, I'm going to add a cinnamon stick. So I just want to add a little bit more like warming spice to this to kind of balance out the sourness and just give me a lot of flavor without adding, you know, no juice, no sugar, no carbonation, really nothing like that. But now you guys can see already in just a few minutes how steeped this has gotten. So I would put a lid on this, put it in the refrigerator for a couple hours or up to 24 hours. And then in about 24 hours, it'll look pretty similar, but the ginger and the cinnamon especially will have given their flavor. And then you want to strain this. So, oh, you can actually, I'm going to pull one of these out. So this is what the hibiscus looks like when it's like been wet and kind of bloomed. So just like a little dried flower. I've seen some of these used in cocktails too. I think that would be like really pretty to do like a hibiscus mimosa. You could use this as a base of a cocktail too, like add sparkling water, vodka, top it off with champagne if that's the kind of spa night you're having. Let me grab a little strainer. And let me grab one more jar. And I'm just going to strain it into another jar. And so you could just stick a straw in this, but it'll be a little messy if you try to drink out of the jar. Awesome. So here is our gingery, hibiscusy, cinnamony beverage. And then you can add ice to this if you want. Typically, like in an Ayurvedic spa or just in Indian culture in general, we never add ice to anything. So you don't have to. But then I'm going to show you, I like adding, if you want just a teeny bit of sweetness, because I mentioned this is kind of tart, I usually will just slice up a couple orange slices. So you can do that. It kind of gives it like a festive sangria-y type of vibe. Usually I just slice it up, you know, with the peel and everything, just like I would for sangria. If you don't want to use the peel, let me show you what you can do. You guys get a little bonus knife skills class. So I'm looking at, you know, the top and the bottom, and I'm going to cut those off. So you can see basically with like an orange or any kind of citrus fruit, I have a sphere that's inside another sphere. So if I want to cut away all of that peel, I'm basically just trying to cut between those two spheres. So I'm going to take my knife and basically cut a bunch of curve shapes. So I'm going to start one going away from myself. And the first one is always a little bit of a gamble because you just don't know how thick that peel is. I did a decent job, right? I got the top part, but then I kind of didn't curve enough at the bottom. So I'm just going to fix that by curving a little bit more. And then now I have this nice white line to follow. So I'm going to take my knife and just follow that line and kind of keep cutting away at that peel. This is called supreming an orange or segmenting. But it's kind of a little fancy of a knife skill. But if you guys are doing any tarts or even like citrus for salad, it's just kind of a nice thing to do. And then for salad, what you would do is you can see all these little vertical membranes. I would take my knife and basically cut like a triangle and just release all of those segments, basically like from the spokes of the wheel. So you'd end up with the spokes of the wheel at the end. For this, though, I don't need to do that. I'm just going to slice maybe like a couple slices like this. These look really pretty. If you guys do any like citrus tarts or something, these will look really pretty on top. And just toss them in there, and I'll give it a little bit of citrus, a little bit of ice, and that is our first spa beverage. So let me know if you have any questions about hibiscus or any sort of other cold brew herbal preparations. Let's see. Oh, where did I study abroad? In India. So when I studied abroad in college, I was in Kerala. which is like one of the southernmost states in India. And I was actually studying music at the time. So in college, I studied vocal music and then also drumming in India. So I was sort of in a totally different space than I am now. But that's really like the birthplace of Ayurveda. So it really, I ended up seeing an Ayurvedic doctor when I was there, and it just kind of opened my eyes to this whole different way of looking at your health, which was so different than what I grew up with. My mom is a nurse, my dad is a pharmacist. So like everything was like Western medicine, the hospital, and so it was a really interesting experience for me. I put the extra in broth. Okay, I think we're talking about the chickpea liquid, I'm assuming. Cool, so no questions on this. Let's talk a little bit more about maybe like some hot spice beverages. So let me clear a little space. It's gonna get kind of, this happens with my in-person classes too. I'm a little bit messy, so there's just like things everywhere. Some things aside. So the second beverage option I have for you is if you guys want like a warm beverage. So I figured a lot of people would be familiar with, you know, just putting like fruit or herbs in water, you know, mint water, cucumber water, things like that. So that's why I wanted to do a little bit something different with like herbs and spices. But the second recipe is an option to do something hot. So these are called like spice waters, but you could think of them as just like teas too. It's just strictly linguistically speaking, a tea should come from the tea plant. So if you think of like black tea, green tea, white tea, those all come from a single plant called the Camellia sinensis plant that, you know, primarily grows in China and India. And then when you have like mint tea or chamomile tea, it's like we kind of say tea, but they're not really teas. So in the herbal space, usually we call those infusions. So a spice water would be an infusion. So I put together a couple of spices that I thought would be good for like all different kinds of people, and good for this time of year, because really, like, especially in like an Ayurvedic spa, the whole point of the food is that it's like customized to you. So people often fall into like 3 different categories in the Ayurvedic mindset. Some of you guys are familiar with the term dosha. I won't get too far into it because that's like a whole other class. But basically it's like your constitution. So if you think about yourself and your health and your habits, like there's probably certain things that you can identify that you're really prone to, whether you're someone who's like, oh, I gain weight so easily. And you see other people where it's like, it's not that easy for them. Or every time I get a cold, it starts in my nose and then it moves to my throat. Or, there's just a lot of those things that your body tends to do in a certain way, or an emotional reaction. You kind of always have the same one. So those kind of collections of things are what make up your constitution or your dosha. And so in Ayurveda, the idea is that you eat certain foods or you take herbs or you exercise a certain way to help balance that out. So if you're someone who's prone to maybe a lot of anxiety, you might choose like herbs and habits and times of day to wake up and stuff to help balance that out. But a lot of herbs and spices can be good for all of us. So that's sort of what I picked for you. If that's like really interesting to you, what I was talking about, I have one book. It's linked on my website that I like. Some of these I bought in India, but I think you can get them on Amazon. So this one's just called Ayurveda, A Life of Balance. And like I said, it's linked on my website, or I can pop it into the chat at the end if anyone's interested. But it kind of takes you through the different body types and suggests, herbs and foods and stuff for each one. So that's kind of a cool resource. But I'm going to pull a couple things together. So I'm going to do our good friend ginger again, also a little bit of cardamom and fennel. And the reason I wanted to mention that book, or I kind of pulled out a couple other things, like you can use cinnamon, cloves are also great. Those are really nice, like warming spices, because you really can just use really what you have at home. So basically this is gonna be a ginger tea that's flavored a little bit with fennel and cardamom. So cardamom is a cooling spice. If you guys aren't as familiar with cardamom, you might know it from like different, let me show you this way. different like desserts. It's used a lot in Indian desserts. I'm trying to, you guys can see those pods. I think it has like a very floral taste. So you want to be cautious not to use too much. If you've ever had Indian chai, this is probably like the main spice that you taste. So I'm going to take a little pot, and we're just going to put a few of the pods in there. And then I'm also going to take some fennel seeds. So I know not everyone loves the taste of fennel. Fennel has that like licoricey type of taste. It's not quite as strong as licorice, but fennel is also an amazing herb for digestion. If you guys have been to an Indian restaurant, you'll know when you leave the restaurant, there's often like these little bowls of like candy coated seeds. Those are actually fennel seeds that are covered in sugar. And if you chew them, they release the juice like the ginger. They're carminative. So, you know, a little bit, it won't be such a licoricey taste for those of you that don't like it. Then I'm going to take my ginger, slice up a few more slices, just like I did before. You could use that peeler or just for expediency. I'm just going to trim off those sides. And then slice it up. So typically when you make a tea, like if I was going to make myself a cup of green tea, I would just pour water on top, right, hot water on top of the tea, and that's called an infusion. The same way if I was doing something with one of those tea bags, I just pour hot water on top. For whole spices, or for like sort of thicker, woodier pieces, that boiling water isn't going to do much. And so instead of an infusion, what we want to create is called a decoction. And that's just a fancy term for boiling your spices or your teas with water. So I'm going to bring this whole thing up to a boil, and that's going to give me much better flavor. It's going to extract those medicinal properties too. And usually you can tell because you get the aroma, the water changes color, but any kind of thick, woodier spices or herbs need this treatment. So I'm just going to simmer this for, you don't need to do it forever, but just for a few minutes, and then we'll have our hot spice water. Okay, any questions pop up? Oh, a couple things. Okay, ginger. I love that you guys are like answering each other's questions too. Soak hibiscus tea. Oh, okay. If you don't like super strong tea, can you soak the hibiscus tea for half the time and still get the same benefits? Yes. So with a lot of these herbs and spices, for a true medicinal effect, like if you were to see an Ayurvedic doctor and say, oh, I'm having digestive problems or whatever, and they're like, oh, you should have ginger tea, they're not going to tell you to drink like a cup of ginger tea. They might tell you to drink it literally 8 times a day. So I'm not in the business of giving like those type of recommendations. So in terms of, you know, hibiscus tea having its heart healthy benefits, I have no idea, but usually the taste and the color and the aroma are good indications if the plant property has been dispersed into the water. So definitely you could either use half the amount of tea bags or yeah, just soak it for like a couple hours. And then if you want it super potent, let it soak a really long time. Does Whole Foods have fennel seeds? Yes, 100%. A lot of grocery stores will, sometimes with like bulk spices, but often they'll have them with the jars too. Don't have any spices except for cinnamon and ginger. Yeah, if you guys have like clove or allspice or something, that would taste good. And I mean, even cinnamon and ginger would taste good too. Ginger and turmeric would also be good. Yeah, so the signature drink at the spa that I worked at, and this one, I have a variation of it that's also on my website, was a lemon turmeric kind of cold tea like this. So they would basically take turmeric or ginger, both of them, maybe like simmer them. They would add sugar and then lemon juice and serve it cold. And so the variation that I posted, I like things, typically I like them more warm. So I did a warm version, and then I didn't add sugar because I don't think you need to, but you could add a little bit of honey or sugar if you wanted to do that too. So let me set our beverages aside. These will be fun, I feel like, to drink out of like champagne flutes too, just to make it like extra festive. And then let's move on. Maybe I can smell, you know, I put all that garlic on the chickpeas, like that's what my whole kitchen smells like right now. I'm getting very excited. So let's go through some of the spa treatments too. And then we'll talk about kind of scrubs. I put a makeup remover in there. And then we can finish up with masks. And then hopefully our chickpeas will be done or close to done. Let me just clean up a little bit. I'm going to swap out a few things for some stuff I have on the back counter.
Alia, what was the name of the book again?
Oh, okay. It's called Ayurveda, A Life of Balance. And then actually, let me just pop in the author in here. There you go.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. And then, yeah, a couple other books that I pulled if you guys are interested in this. Again, some of these are ones I bought in India, but I think you can get them online. When I was talking about like the herbs and some of the different properties that they have, and okay, how do you know ginger is good for this, and that it's not just like something people are saying on the internet. In terms of Ayurvedic herbs, this is a book, I know this is backwards, but it's called The Yoga of Herbs. And so it's basically like an encyclopedia that goes through, like I mentioned, cardamom. It tells you about like its flavors if you haven't had it, the types of bodies, you know, like parts of the body that it's good for, who it's good for. So not really meant as like a guide for treating yourself, but if you're just kind of curious about herbs, it's a cool book. And then another one that I'll kind of get into a little bit later is obviously there's a big connection in Ayurveda and Ayurvedic spas that like what you put on your body is just as important as what you put in your body. So a lot of the Ayurvedic spas in the United States are pretty much purely focused on like external beauty, let's say. And they, you know, they use a lot of like natural products, and it's not so much like the spa that I worked at in India. People might go there for a month to kind of, you know, maybe recover from some sort of illness that they'd had, or really try to like turn their health around. Typically Ayurvedic spas in the US, you know, it's more about like massage and relaxing and just kind of keeping yourself in balance. So this one is a woman who owns a spa in New York City. The book is called Absolute Beauty, and her name is Pratima Raichur. Her spa is called Pratima. I'll type this one in the chat too. And she goes through, yeah, like, you know, what you should eat for beauty. And this is obviously like one culture and one tradition's perspective. So it's, even though she says absolute, it's not an absolute resource. But she has a ton of recipes for, okay, if you want to create your own face wash, if you want to create your own, you know, deodorant, like all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a cool resource too. So let's talk, let me grab my sugar. And then my oil. Let's see. Oh, I think I have to get the sugar from a cabinet, so let's see. You guys will see the reason I pulled out pretty much everything on the counter is because I'm too short to reach most of the cabinets in my house. So I have to use tongs to get things if any of it is on above the higher shelf, or I have to ask my husband. So let's just all ignore what I'm about to do right now, but I'm just trying to get something off the shelf in my own house. There we go. You know, I'm a strong, independent woman. I don't need my husband. So there's a lot of like sugar scrub recipes online. And I feel like this is what, if you just want to make one basic beauty treatment at home, this is the easiest. It's literally going to work exactly the same as something that you bought. So if you bought like the, what's that store called? Sabon. Has anyone shopped there? They have like a salt or sugar scrub. It's like, it's their signature thing. Like you go into the store and there's some woman who's like, can I wash your hands for you? Has anyone experienced this? And you're like, I need to buy this $80 thing. This is going to be exactly the same. It's just not going to smell quite as good because we're not adding. It's awesome. So I'm using brown sugar. And the reason I'm using brown sugar is actually because I buy brown sugar like once a year. and then I have it in my cabinet, and then it's a solid brick. And then I throw it out because I'm not going to use brown sugar and it's such a pain. So that actually happened to me yesterday. I went to teaching myself how to make sourdough. So I was making sourdough cinnamon rolls, which turned out great. And so I needed brown sugar, and I had this giant clump of brown sugar. So I took it, and you have two things that you can do if your brown sugar like solidifies. One is you can just put it in a bowl, cover it with a damp paper towel, and start microwaving it for about 15 seconds at a time. You don't want it to start to melt, but that's how you take 15 seconds, you know, maybe poke it with a fork, put it back in, and it slowly kind of will absorb that moisture again from the paper towel. I don't actually have a microwave, so I did the second option is what I just took that big chunk of brown sugar. I kind of smacked it against the counter just to get a couple chunks, and then I transferred it to my food processor, and then just pulsed it in the food processor. And you can see today, you know, it's not as like juicy as brown sugar typically is, you know, that it kind of is a little sticky, but it's like completely powdered again, which is awesome. So you don't need to throw this away. But if you have like old sugar, or maybe it's expired or something, like sugar doesn't really go bad, but this is a great way to use it up. Can use coconut sugar. 100%. Coconut sugar is just so much more expensive that I like wouldn't want to waste it on this. And sometimes the crystals of white sugar or brown sugar are just a little bit more even, but you can. You definitely can. If maybe the same thing happened to your coconut sugar. So literally all we're going to do with this, I'm going to take a little bit of olive oil, and again, this doesn't have to be your best olive oil. Often these beauty treatments that you're using in your kitchen, use them with things that are old or that are going to expire when you're trying to clear things out, because you don't need to use your best olive oil for this. And basically, I'm just going to take a little bit and just stir it in. And so I want this to have almost like a wet sand consistency. I don't need it to be super wet. But because both of these products are really shelf stable, you could make like a big mason jar of this, or like a little glass jar, and keep it. So you don't want so much oil. So you don't want too much oil for two reasons. One, it'll start to dissolve the sugar. And we want that grittiness of the sugar for exfoliation. So if I just have sugar dissolved in oil, it's just like a disgusting recipe and not a helpful scrub. The other reason is if any of you guys have experimented with putting like coconut oil in your hair, or like using it as lotion, and then you take a shower for a couple days and you're like, oh, my drain is really slow. That's because you're basically dumping oil down it, which you should not do. So with any homemade beauty stuff, you do want to be cautious about the amount of oil that you use that's eventually going to be washed off, because it's terrible for your pipes. And it's one reason that like olive oil is maybe going to be a little bit better than coconut oil. They're both going to eventually solidify in your pipes if there's too much. But coconut oil is going to solidify even earlier because it solidifies at such a high temperature compared to other oils. So I have this awesome scrub here now, and you can use this on your hands, especially I know a lot of us, our hands are like really dry now, your feet, your skin. Just do it in the shower. The water will dissolve the rest of the sugar, so it should go down your drain really easily. The one place I would not use this, which I know a lot of people have seen, like a lot of recipes for this, but I would not use it on your face. So I personally wouldn't use salt or sugar scrubs on your face, just because typically the skin is too delicate. So I know a lot of us do have, you know, some people have super resilient skin, but for most people, you're going to get like tiny little abrasions, and so your skin might break out, and it's just, you know, it's not good for you. So you absolutely can use this for your lips though. So if your lips are super dry, use this to get those little flakes off, wash it off with water, and then put on you know, some oil or some chapstick. If you want to give this a little bit, yes, Tiffany was saying lip scrub. Definitely your lips are fine. I just wouldn't use it on the rest of my face. I also have very sensitive skin, so I personally wouldn't, and I'm just not recommending it, even though I know plenty of people do, and they're fine. Oh, my hands feel incredible. So Gina's doing this one right now. Just Gina, be careful of your computer. I don't want you to get sugar all over it as you're typing up this message to us all. But yeah, this can stay in a jar, and if you do want to add some scent to it, if you have some essential oils, just 1 or 2 drops would be perfect. So like I have a lavender essential oil, that would be awesome. You know, tea tree. Just be careful if you are putting it on your lips. I would just not put any oils in there because you don't want to. I know you don't want to accidentally eat those. So I will save this one for later when I'm cleaning up and I want to wash. I've been washing my hands so much because I've also just been cooking so much. So I feel like I always have dry hands just being a professional chef because we wash our hands so much that this would be awesome to do at the end of the night and then put on a really nice lotion before you go to bed and really just like let it soak in. Then my next one for you, for a lot of my classes, if I can, I always try to include like a recipe that's not even a recipe. So this is like the low-hanging fruit for someone who's just like, you know, wants to put forth like the bare amount of effort or just wants to try one thing. And that's the one that follows in the packet, which is a makeup remover. And the reason I thought to share this tip is actually because I'm out of I usually use like micellar water before I wash my face to take off my makeup. I'm out and I don't feel like going to Walgreens or anything. But most makeup removers and cleansers that remove makeup, the reason that they're able to is because they're oil-based. Most makeup and cosmetic products are oil-based, so if you try to take them off with like a water-based cleanser, it just doesn't work very well. So if I have, let me see, let me get a little cotton pad and I'm going to show you how this takes off makeup.
I feel like with the sugar scrub, I just want to like eat it.
Well, it's safe to eat, so you could. I also, thanks for like hanging out while I just like run around my house. I feel like you guys are literally actually at my house. I'm like, oh, let me just run to the bathroom for a second. So I just grabbed a little like cotton makeup remover pad. So it's just a cotton pad, a cotton ball, washcloth, and you can just put a little bit of oil on it. So I'm using olive oil, and kind of like the sugar scrub, this is an area where I disagree with a lot of the internet recipes out there. I personally don't put coconut oil on my face because it is more breakout. It makes you more breakout prone. And you know, a lot of people don't have that problem at all, so you can. But I will typically use an oil that's not so pore clogging, like an olive oil. So you can see I have it on the pad here. And so you can use this just to take off your eye makeup. Remember my warning to you though at the beginning is just because a product is natural doesn't mean that it's like good for every part of your body. You don't want to be like pouring olive oil into your eyes. So you would do this just like you would a makeup remover, keep it shut, and then you want to wash your face like normal afterwards. So I'm not going to put it on my eye right now, but I did put on a little blush before this, so I'm just going to wipe my cheek with this. And you guys, I think you can you guys see that pink on there? It really just takes everything right off. My skin is super smooth. It does have oil on it, but I'm going to just, you know, basically double cleanse for anyone who's like a K-beauty fan. I would just wash with my normal cleanser and that oil will come off, but my skin won't be as dry as it was otherwise. So that's my low-hanging fruit for you guys if you want just a natural beauty thing to incorporate. That's like one less product that you have to buy. And then finally, let's finish up with masks. So I gave you a bunch of options in the packet. And I'm not going to go through each one, but I did try to pick things that I was like, oh, these are things that people probably have at home, or again, are good ways to use up food that's maybe gone a little bit too bad. Like I know neither my husband or I like bananas when they're too ripe. And there's only so many, you know, frozen bananas that you can have for smoothies or banana bread. But that's a great opportunity to use a banana is like mashed up for a face mask once it's a little bit too ripe. Or same, I feel like 1 out of every 4 avocados that I buy is like oh, it ripened a little too fast, or it has like a weird brown spot or something, like that's the one to use for the face mask, not like the perfect one. Save the perfect one for eating. So I have more of those, like I call them foodie face masks. That's the last page. But I want you guys to, you can check out the DIY Soothing Powder Face Masks. So kind of like our sugar scrub, this is something that you could make today, and then it'll be shelf stable, so you can store it in your, you know, your pantry or bathroom for a couple weeks or months, and you don't need like fresh food. It's not gonna be quite so messy. Let's see, question. Agreed, ripe bananas are no good. Yeah, I would much rather have an under-ripened banana than a too ripe one. It just, yeah, just even thinking about it, guys. And then extra virgin olive oil work too? Yes, it does. This is technically extra virgin olive oil. This is just not my, I kind of have like a fancier olive oil that I use raw. And then this is just a regular one. So yeah, you could use other oils too. I mean, even I have like a jojoba oil, the avocado oil would be good. Really anything. You could use coconut oil. I just don't personally do that. But let's talk about our powdered face masks. So let me do a little more rearranging again, just to give myself a little bit more space. And I have just a few more minutes on those chickpeas, so I'm gonna take them out and show you where we're at. Ooh. Oh, I think they're actually done, so I'm glad I checked on that. So I think my cook time was a little bit shorter because I only had 1 can in there, not the 2. Let me see. I'm gonna put some in a bowl so I can bring it closer to the camera for you.
Just check mine too. Mine are done as well.
Okay. I'm excited to eat these. And I'm excited to turn my oven off because it got hot in here. So these are my little chickpea babies. Can you guys see them? They're one's overboard. But you can see they're brown. They're a lot smaller than they were to start. They're pretty hot, so I don't want to hold them for too long. But super crispy. So definitely go at least the 45 minutes. These will last for a couple days at room temperature. What might happen though is like today they're so crispy and you guys will eat them tonight and it's like the perfect movie snack. If you have extra and eat them tomorrow, they might just be a little bit softer. And that's because they're just absorbing moisture from the air. But you can just pop them either back into the oven or into the toaster oven for literally 1 or 2 minutes and they will crisp up again. It needs just a minute or two to just release that moisture and then they're crispy again. So you can, super easy, just get them crispy again. This is super hot, but I'm gonna taste it anyway. So good. I told you that sumac, it just gives it like a little brightness. So really awesome flavor on there. And the garlic, like I would just eat them covered in that garlic too. So let's talk about face masks and powdered ones. So let me grab the things that I want to use. So many things. Okay. I told you I was clearing things away, but I just brought more things. So let me see what I can get rid of. Okay, so for a lot of Ayurvedic skincare, and this is probably somewhat just, you know, tradition and ingredients that have been used, herbs that are popular in this part of the world, and then partially also maybe related to climate, that a lot of, say, cleansers or different things that would be fine in a cool environment, like in Chicago, wouldn't do so well in India where it could be very like hot and humid. So a lot of cleansers and treatments and masks come powdered, and then you add water or milk, rose water, some sort of liquid to rehydrate them. So this is one that I bought in India. I think you can get online. The brand is Kama Ayurveda, and this is a cleanser. And it's, you can see it's basically just like different powdered herbs. along with like a base powder. And so the base powder is going to basically be the vehicle that carries those herbs. So say you did want, turmeric or something as a cleanser or as a mask, you don't need 4 tablespoons of turmeric on your face. You want to mix it with something that can kind of carry that turmeric to the rest of your face. So this is, I mentioned one, this one uses oatmeal as a base. We're going to use the first one that we make. Other popular carriers for Indian cleansers and stuff, powdered milk is actually one of the most popular. And unlike that sugar that's a little too harsh for your skin, things like the flours and like the oatmeal flour and chickpea flour, which we'll use, or even powdered milk, they're just so much softer. So that little bit of grittiness is much better for in your face compared to like a sharp, large crystal that can really like scratch and abrade it. So we're gonna make some oatmeal flour really quickly. But if you guys have bought chickpea flour before, in Indian markets, it's called besan. But I know if you come to my classes, you've probably seen me use it. We make like chickpea crepes, we make like fritters. Chickpea powder is also or flour is also a really popular like base for masks or cleansers. Because it is, just really soft, and it like the oats and those flours, they can kind of like draw out impurities too. So often before a bride gets married in India, she'll have like a turmeric mask as part of a pre-wedding ceremony called a haldi, and often it's mixed with chickpea flour like this to kind of get it to stick onto the face. So if you can use oat flour or chickpea flour if you have it. Another one that I picked up today, because I'm going to try to do some bread making, is rice flour. This one's actually super powdery and light. So use what you have in your kitchen, but if you have any of these, those would work. If you have rolled oats, but you don't have oat flour, you can make oat flour 2 ways. You can make it with your food processor, just put some oats in there, turn it on high, and wait until you have flour. If you have like a high-speed blender, or honestly maybe other kinds of blenders, you could give it a try. I mean, what's a couple tablespoons of oats? If it doesn't work out, just try it. The other thing you can do is if you have a spice grinder or a coffee grinder, these are often going to be even better at getting things to a nice fine powder. If you think about it, I put peppercorns in here and it gets them into a powder, whereas like my food processor might not get it so powdery. So to do this, you just want to take some oats. So these are just the rolled oats, not steel cut oats. And I'm going to put a little bit into my spice grinder. And put the lid on. And then my plug is behind me, so I'm going to go back there and just buzz it up. Okay, so you can see in just, less than a minute, we have this really fine oatmeal powder. And oatmeal is often used in skin treatments for like its moisturizing quality. If you think about it, when you make oats, you put a bunch of water or liquid into it, and they just soak it up. So it's great at kind of holding moisture to your skin. It helps it like stick to your skin too. And so you could have, if you wanted to put these in like little mason jars or little glass jars, your oat powder, oat flour, oatmeal flour, whatever you want to call it, would be your base. So then next, you want to add whatever add-ins you have. So I wanted to make the base recipe just like as easy as possible. So I thought chamomile would be a good one. So you could just take chamomile tea bags. And with different herbs and teas, just use, you can either, do a little Googling, maybe find some other substitutes beyond what I suggested, but use a little bit of common sense too. So especially if you want something to be soothing, yes, like chamomile might be a good choice. Ginger or something like spicier might actually irritate your skin, even if you're used to eating it. So typically nothing hot and spicy, nothing with chilies, nothing with ginger. Keep that away from your face. One note about chamomile too, you guys might know this already. But if you have like hay fever or pollen allergies, sometimes you can have a cross allergy to something like chamomile. So you probably know it if you drink the tea, but just a little word of warning. So depending on how nice your tea bags are, you might already have a very fine powder in here. If you splurge and spend a few more dollars on the tea bags, they might have more of those like the flour bits in there, and you can just transfer them to your spice grinder as well. So this is what this looks like right now. So you can see we have like some little pieces in there, and I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to buzz this up. Okay, so this didn't turn into like a total powder, but it did get a lot smaller and more powdery. And I'll be real, this spice grinder is from the dollar store, like maybe 12 years ago. So if you have like a nicer coffee grinder, you might have better luck. So I'm gonna add this to my oat powder. And then your mask could be as simple as this. So you could put this in the jar, and then when you're ready to make a mask, you would just wanna take some out of a jar. Sorry, that was my timer. Take it out of a jar, mix it with either a little bit of water or milk, or I actually use rose water because I just have it in my kitchen for cooking. So a couple drops of rose water, you'll make a paste. I'll show you what that looks like. But just start with a few drops. Okay, I will use regular water, I guess. And then that paste will stick to your skin. So if you did have like a serum or any other kind of add-ons you would want to put, you could put them in now when you're mixing too. So no liquid should be stored with that because it won't be shelf stable. But you can see now I have like this paste, and you can just put it on your skin and it'll stick. You can leave it on for really however long you'd like. Smells nice and florally. Or if you have like a makeup brush or like a kitchen brush or something, you could use that too. So I will take this off my face to answer any more questions. So that's like the last recipe that I wanted to go through with you. I know that it's been just about an hour, so I don't want to keep you guys in my kitchen too long. But let me know if you have any questions about this process. Or like I mentioned, if you want to ask me questions beyond this, I am happy to hang out for a little bit too. Oh, thank you, Emily.
Alia, I made the turmeric brightening mask.
Oh, nice.
Because that's the ingredients I had. So I'm excited to try this.
Nice. Yeah, with any of the food ones, just be careful because they can drip off your face.
Okay.
So you might want to try like how I kind of added a little bit of water and then I slowly added more if you want to, kind of be cautious with the liquid. One word of warning that I'll give you for turmeric masks. Mine shouldn't be too much of a problem, but you'll find a bunch of turmeric masks online, is that if you have light skin, they will stain your skin yellow. So if you have medium or deeper skin, it'll have a little bit more of like a brightening effect because it will actually be a little bit of a yellow tint, but it'll just kind of light up your face. If you have light skin, you might look like an Oompa Loompa if you leave it on too long. My recipe doesn't have that much turmeric, but I would say just kind of be cautious. I mean, we're all at our houses now anyway, so who cares? But just a word of warning, I have a couple of friends who've been like, oh, I heard about this turmeric mask thing. And I'm like, oh boy, like, girl, no one warned you. So I'm warning you guys.
Okay, that's a good warning. I will test it out.
Okay, is there any way to get rid of turmeric stains? Oh, turmeric stains. So it will eventually come off your face. So your skin, just keep washing it. It'll come off, even if you get it in your nail beds or something, like it might take a day or two, but you yourself will not permanently be stained with turmeric. For clothing and towels and things like that, it's really hard to get out. So definitely wear an old t-shirt if you do the turmeric mask. Maybe bleach would work. I don't usually use bleach, but it's notoriously one of the hardest stains to get out. So maybe just dye whatever the rest of it with turmeric. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Turmeric tie-dye. Awesome, guys. Well, like I said, I'll hang out a little bit longer on the chat before I turn it over to back to Kelly. But I wanted to thank you guys so much for joining me in my kitchen and watching me make a huge mess. In the chat too, if there's any, I know Kelly will probably tell you more about like some future upcoming workshops and classes and workouts and stuff that aSweatLife is doing. But if there's anything cooking related or sort of health and wellness cooking related that you guys would like to see, pop it into the chat too, because I would love those suggestions. I'd be happy to do another class in a couple weeks. Some things I was thinking about, especially from cooking, you know, I know a lot more people are like cooking with beans now, or that never did before because they're like all out of the stores, or I've been having a chef friend of mine teach me how to make sourdough. So I kind of thought that would be an interesting one too. If anyone would be interested in sort of like a day-by-day babysitting of going through the sourdough process, maybe get with a starter or something. So let me know any ideas and I will talk. So thank you guys.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun, and what a fun like activity to do on a Sunday afternoon, right? Like kind of wind down your day, wind down your weekend. And you're just like a wealth of knowledge too. I loved all like the tips you put out there, not just like about like spa stuff, but like you obviously know so much about food. So this was lovely to just have all of your tips and knife skills. Like we got it all today.
I agree. Thank you.
And yeah, as far as aSweatLife, we have weeks full of workshops and workouts, so all can be found on our website. And then everything is pretty much Facebook Live, or if it's a workshop, it is via Zoom. And then we'll send out all the links to everything you kind of talked about today and the recipes, and then where to find you too. So if you want to mention where to find you on social media, and then we can close it out.
Yeah, definitely. So my handle, which my name is hard to spell, so I'll just spell it out here. It's just my name, so Alia Dalal. But you can see, like, you can follow my sourdough process. If we're doing more events, I'll post them there. I also do have a website with a ton of recipes on it, like free downloadable guides for making different things. That's also just my name, so aliadalal.com. But if you guys have any questions about this stuff, you're welcome to reach out to me via Instagram or via my website too. Happy to chat more. And I'll take a look at some of these suggestions too, and maybe think about what else we can do together virtually.
Yeah, I love that. And one more, it sounds like there was 2 questions about good Chicago restaurant options for Ayurvedic like restaurants.
Oh, so I wouldn't I don't really think there are any. So there's one on Devon that's called Arya Bhavan, that she does more sort of Ayurvedic-ish healthy things, but it's honestly really not a restaurant type of food. So really your best bet is either like a spa or just like learning things that you can make at home. But I'll give you guys the restaurant name. I don't know if she's still open, but I'll put this in here because I know all of these are Hindi and Sanskrit words, so no one knows what I'm saying. And then Ayurvedic spas in Chicago. So there is one place, and actually when I mentioned when I studied abroad or studied at the spa in India, I came to Chicago and I was like, I'm gonna work with like yoga studios and teach classes and like all this stuff, and everyone's like, Ayurveda, like what are you talking about? So except for one person who is actually in the process of opening up an Ayurvedic center in Chicago, and that I will give you is called Hamsa. Her name's Monica. So I don't know that she would describe it as like a spa, but they do like massage there. I think obviously now they're closed down, but she does more, not super medical treatments, but more like kind of working with people on sort of chronic things. I don't know if there's like a spa. A couple other brands that I like. So 2 that are more like lower price that you could probably get online if you just want to like purchase some products. There's this one that's called Kama, like Kama Sutra, Kama. And then I pulled out another one that I have that's called Forest Essentials. So these are both, I believe, both Indian based, but I think they distribute in the US. So there might be, retailers and stuff that have them. And then more on the luxury side, like if any of you guys do like, nice skincare or just kind of want a little bit more boutique-y things, there's two brands that I know pretty well too. One is called Ranavat, and she does like powdered masks like this, but obviously more premium ingredients and more specialty herbs beyond, chamomile and stuff. And then the other one is called Uma, like Uma Thurman. But yeah, these powder masks too, I pulled this out. If you guys order, you can get clay online. So French clay, this is green clay, pink clay, all this stuff. It's so cheap. And it's an awesome base for a powder mask too, because it's really good at pulling out impurities. So you can get those powder clays and just make, a bunch of pretty jars and give them as gifts and things like that too. But I can pop those brands into the chat too.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right, perfect. And then I can get with you too afterwards to make sure I have the links to everything you kind of talked about in this show, we can call it. And I'll send it out to everyone with a thank you note afterwards so everyone has everything that you talked through. And you'll get a recording of this session too.
Awesome.
Perfect. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much. Have a great Sunday and have a great week. And we'll see you on the interwebs.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.